sometimes I see POE when they have a bad season. Everyone, even the biggest content creators, are critical about it. They give a lot of shit to GGG on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, when a league just doesn't reach the expectations. And I feel sometimes that they're too critical about it. They are too harsh on GGG, on the developers. But then I realized that maybe that's why POE is so good. Maybe that's why Diablo 4 is how it is, or Blizzard has become what it has become. Because for a decade, we had a majority of big content creators more worried about being friends with Blizzard than being truthful to the fan base, or a community more worried about defending Blizzard from critiques than demanding from them what a company of their trajectory should deliver. Hello everyone, I'll try to make this rant as short as I can and play the early access beta, the one that you were given access to if you purchased the game. Feel good. I didn't like the sorceress, the bar feel weak, like it's whatever is early game is a bar. Then I tried the rogue, I felt good, the combat felt good, felt interesting with different type of options on its disposal. But then I played the second beta, the one that was open for everyone even if you didn't purchase the game, and honestly reality hit me very hard. The moment was when I was doing this necro mission, the specialization mission to get the golem. I found myself doing this quest that honestly felt like, I don't want to say it because everyone abuses this, but it did feel like a mobile game. I was with this NPC talking to him. He said, bring some bones. There was suddenly a bunch of skeletons around me. What do we need bones for, to make a golem? Whatever. Then they sent me to do a yard event. I felt like one of these yard events that not only we saw in the open world, but we already saw in Diablo 3. And suddenly reality hit me. Like necro wasn't even interesting. I've been a necro man since Diablo 2. I love the class design in Diablo 2. I had high hopes in the early access for the Necro and the Druid, and from that point on, after that quest, it was like I couldn't see what was in front of me. That is Diablo 4 core problems. People say that Diablo 4 is not bad. It's just that it seeks simplicity, it seeks accessibility to any player. That you have PoE for complex games. That's what you seek. I don't think that's describing the whole problem. You can make a good game and it being simple, and complex game can be bad. It has nothing to do with that. It has the fact of core problems of Diablo 4 that I'm gonna mention that are, to me, very problematic, not only for the release of the game, but for the future of the game. And these are the character design, the open world system, and the year score / tier system. Let's put an example, a class that I did like and I did have fun, because you know, I'm not gonna go over what everything is saying and try to bring another perspective. Everyone is saying, and it's true that the combat is good. It is. The combat itself, your character casting spells, hitting monsters, it does feel good. It does feel thrilling, and it's more in the case of the rogue, feels very good. The problem is not that. The problem is more the actual design of the classes, the design of the tree, the design of the basic core systems of the game. For example, you take it to we take the rogue. One of the problems I have that if you want to go melee, look how few options you have. You have 3 bow versus 2 cutthroat, or will be more or less the melee type of abilities. Sure, you have dash and you have shadow step. Shadow step works, and that can work as a melee physical type of ability too. But what we see here already in the core and how the Diablo 4 works, very similar to Diablo 3, right? You have the resource generators and the resource spenders, and then you have utility, defensiveness, enhancement, and or skills that don't use resources but use cooldown, and then the ultimate that even bigger cooldowns. Already you've seen something very obvious. You have 3 bow abilities versus 2 blades. We've already seen a lack of abilities, a lack of options. You overguide the player where to go, how to play, and that's already very concerning. And this is an example of rogue. That's one of the most interesting. With the Necro, for example, is one of the classes that I feel like was more of a disappointment, because it's even more toned down. Sure, you go minions, you have the debuff, you pick the debuff, you have the seniors with the debuff and the creepy fight with the stun, and that's about it. You can cap core explosion, cop tendrils, whatever, some passes over there. But the class feels good. Then you have blood that you pick all the blood stuff, it gives you fortify. Feels very linear the way of the design of each of the trees, and all classes, so maybe the rock, feel too one-dimensional. And the ones that maybe the rock is not one-dimensional because you have a lot of alternatives with shadow immunements, poison immunements, it still feels like a lack of skills. For example, we have the other option for minions in the Necro, quote-unquote option, because it's not that good. We Rip, melee, I always wanted to play a melee Necro. We have Sewer, and then that's it. That idea of melee Necro is gone. It's gone. Because you don't have a bone armor like other classes have armors. You don't have any other type of synergy. It's just you're doing a bit more damage, but at the expense of losing the debuff with Blight. And let me tell you, it's not worth it. It's really, definitely not worth it, because the other one is just better. And then you have the further class design, like every class, the decision of putting a seal on a Necro, which I don't disagree. Obviously, in Diablo 2, for example, you put seals on Necros, but you could put seal on a Barb too, you could put seal on a Sorceress. I don't understand this obsession with balance. Okay, when I have all these classes, right? When I have all these classes with this tree, very linear, very easy to balance, because the end result is that you won't have game complexity, you have interesting classes, and you won't have balance either, as we're seeing in Diablo 4. And sure, we can say that the Druid and the Barb are weak early on, and in late game they might get stronger. On how the case of the Druid, I will be fine with the Bear Druid not being good, the Wolf Druid not being good, particularly Rabbies. This is the only class I didn't get to 25. I just couldn't. Okay, I just couldn't. I'm sorry. I really couldn't. I couldn't go through it. I couldn't go through it. It's bad. I don't care. The Barb is bad. I have two 25s. The Druid is just, let's go through it, right? I don't mind that the Bear and Wolf is not good early. Why do you put the passive and the sole reason of go Bear at the level 30? This class design is just, I don't know. You start with the Bear, okay, and what does the Bear give you? What is the reason to start Bear, right? Because until level 30, you don't get any benefit. You're gonna say, well, you got 45, right? Yeah, but 45 is not even exclusive from Bear. So when you transform in Bear, yes, you get this ability, sure, right? You get this other ability, pulverize, overpower, but the transformation itself is not giving you anything. You need to wait until level 30 to get it. You need to wait for the upgrades. You need to wait for the legendaries. And you can say, okay, that's fine. You just level with something else. Level with that, what else? For example, you want to level companions? Why all the companions are in the same category? And this is something that, for example, happens with the sorcerer. The defensive skill all are in the same category. Instead of having ravens up here, wolves here, divine creeper here, and a bear here. Look, it's not that hard, man. It's not like it wouldn't be that hard to have a bear here to give you a bit more options if you want to go for companions, wouldn't it? I know all the companions in the same area, like telling you, no, you cannot go main companions. This is just a support. This goes for 45. This you wanna go poison, and this I don't fucking know. Vulnerable for, it's supposed to be for caster for vulnerable, but honestly, you get so many things that give you vulnerable. There's like, I don't even know what Red Ravens are for, honestly. And you wanna go spells from the beginning? Well, the spells, they feel so bad. Tornado is so bad. The Lightning Storm, I don't know why you have the channeling, because you cannot cancel the casting. You need to hold the casting, and then from that point on, as long as you have the kind of buff or kind of momentum going, you can cancel the chain lightning, like left click move, left click move. Why not make it random? Okay, from the start, you can hit up to 5, and it's completely random. Will be already better, because you can do on average what you're gonna do 2, 3, right? And you can cancel and left click and move, but no, you need to hold all the time, which feels very bad. Then you have the landslide that, I don't know, man, it feels like I'm playing Pokemon. Like, this spell is so awful, it's bad. You commit the Molten from Diablo 2, but you put it down here just to pretend you didn't, with a 10-second cooldown. You put it down here, it feels also very bad. Like, that's the thing, why we don't have a fire. Again, lack of spells. I get that you don't want to give 3 different elements. Maybe it will be too much, but with the same spells, you can move the tornado around, right? Move it here for elementalists to feel the progression better. Not have all defensive skills once again in the same area. I don't know why the basic skills don't have another tree here or here with a passive saying, for example, the typical resource generator or maximum resource could be here, or some stats, if you don't want to pick the basic skill. That honestly, my fucking goal is that with the bar that I'm going berserk, my goal with every class, the first thing I try to do with every class is remove the basic skills. Get to a point that I can function without basic skills. It feels awful. It feels awful. When I see a rogue with a basic spell, not only with the put points on them because you are forced to, but actually like playing with the basic skill, they are not even combo. That is the only reason to go basic skills, but they are inner side. I just wanna die inside. And the other thing, like, I get that you wanna do console, you wanna do basics things, you wanna keep the class design balance, but 6 spells was too little even for 20 years ago. Okay, nowadays, at least give us a second tab. It's something that honestly will help with the depth, because then you can add some utility to any build. And I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, well, we have the Paragon. Paragon tree, what it has is stats points, and you trouble, right? The stat trouble points, and you get to a node that gives you a 30% more to a specific type of damage. And that's it. That's not gonna add in complexity. That's not making your class have more skills, more variety in the ways of the class can play. The only thing that's gonna do is help you go from level 50, level 60 type of content that you're supposed to do at a level to the next tier, World Tier 3, World Tier 4, and further, and you get another multiplier, and you keep going, increasing in the tiers of the dungeons, and then you get a defensive one, and now you survive those dungeons, and you can go a bit more forward. It's not gonna add complexity to the class. The only thing it's gonna do is help you scale. I know the argument you're gonna say, well, what about POE? POE has this tree, right? I saw Creep doing that. I'm quoting him because it's the guy I hear, and you know, he obviously has a big voice in the community as he deserves. I wanna make a counter argument to that. People say, well, it's the same, it's the tree that they copy from PoE. So in PoE, you have the same thing, right? In PoE, you have the same thing, right? You have the tree, and then you want to travel to a node. Well, you're gonna have a lot of intelligence, right? Intelligence node until you get to that node, right? 30%. The difference between PoE and Diablo 4 in relate to this type of tree, in PoE, the thing about it, why it's so complex and why there's so much diversity of builds, is because the core of the PoE is diverse and complex. The tree itself can be overwhelming for the player, but what enables it is the core system. You cannot fix a bad core system the same way you cannot fix the foundation of a house with a fucking swimming pool on top of the house, okay? And this is the thing, the skill system in PoE makes it so every class can use every specific skill. Different skills, the core system, the gem system of PoE, will interact differently and will add layers of complexity depending on what ascendancy and class you're gonna play. The problem of Diablo 4 with a Paragon tree, like its design, is that in Diablo 4, the tree is specific for each class. Each class have X amount of skills that no other class has. They have X amount of layers besides armor that no other class has. For example, a bar cannot use a seal. So when you get to the Paragon tree, your class, only a specific class will benefit from 40% more wind damage. Only one class will benefit more from Hydra damage or fire damage. Not even Druid has fire. How is that even a thing? You are cutting the possibilities to enhance the experience from the Paragon tree at the very core of the class design of the game. It's like a bottleneck. You are bottlenecking your class design. But the core system is already flawed. The core of PoE is the skill system, the skill gem system that enables any class to use any skill at any given point with the requirements of level and stat. So the best combinations of the tree add the depth to the game and to the class design. If in PoE only the Shadow could use, for example, the Fire Trap, what point will it be to have all these trap nodes next to the Shadow? If only the Shadow can use that, that wouldn't make it complex. The complexity is that you can go to a Marauder, to a Chieftain, bros with fire, and the same way you can go with a Shadow, get traps, you can go and get a Marauder, use those traps, and benefit because of his ascendancy is fire. The same way you can use Fire Trap with an Elementalist, because she can use fire too, and she actually has an incentive to use fire. And that's the complexity. The complexity doesn't come from a big tree with a lot of nodes, with a lot of travel points, and then with some modifiers at the end of them. The complexity comes at the core of the system. The tree is just another layer, and they're gonna be, builds that make more sense than others, but the options are there. The tree is there not as the way of POE to make it complex, but it's another layer of complexity that you add and works because you worked for it before. The Paragon tree won't make the class design in Diablo 4 work because the core of it is already a big problem. On top of all this, we have to address another two core problems of Diablo 4 that are the open world and the dungeon system, both obviously interconnected. The open world I feel is just such a mess. Like, you have a beautiful dungeon system with beautiful walls, beautiful details in it. Feels very like Diablo-like. Very good idea to transform this Path of Exile map system endgame into dungeons that feel more like into the Diablo universe. And then you put it in this open world that I feel like it's empty. You have some side quests, sure, that can be interesting, and you collect the status, but how long that is gonna remain interesting until it becomes dull and tedious, because after season resets you're gonna need to do over and over again. And you have these events that feel like the caches in Diablo 3. The single thing I hate the most about Diablo 3 was that. And the rest of the world, not a lot of density, not a lot of things interesting going on except the exploration. And I feel like the open world itself is a decision making that doesn't belong in a seasonal world, in a seasonal game like Diablo 4. And I feel it was caused by a poor lead on the game. Like, it feels sometimes that Diablo 4 doesn't have a strong vision about what it wants to become. Looking at this open world, it's more like an amalgam of other games. Everyone mentioned Lost Ark, influence in it is obvious. And that translates into a core problem into the dungeons, because you have this open world so vast to fulfill the needs for a big world where the players have content in. The dungeons need to be all over the world and need to be a lot of them, so they feel repetitive. A lot of people are mentioning how repetitive the dungeons are. Well, I think the biggest problem, of course the dungeons are repetitive, but the problem comes before that. They're repetitive because they had to make a lot of them to accommodate that system to the open world. For example, I think this would have been a better fix if just instead of an open world we have a campaign, a linear campaign. That's actually what Diablo 4 wanted to make, right? They put a lot of focus on lore, so why not making a linear campaign, and at the end of it, after 8 hours, 5 hours, you open the world to the players. So you don't need that big of an open world. You can make less dungeons that feel more interesting, so they don't feel so repetitive, and then work from that. Keep working in another open world area with higher level, work on with more dungeons one by one, handcrafting them, and all this concept, the repetitive dungeons, the open worldness, all feels like leads into the same conclusion to me. It's like Diablo 4 was rushed, and I don't even understand why it was rushed, but it's obvious that the dungeons don't have a very interesting design in them. One thing is that they're very repetitive because there's a lot of them, but at least a few should feel way more exciting than they do. I don't think any feels that good. And all this endgame on top of the class design, to me, leads to the same direction. And it's a very frustrating conclusion, but if the game feels rushed, Diablo 4 feels rushed, Diablo 4 feels like it doesn't have a clear vision of what it wants to become in the future, doesn't have a clear vision of what it wants to be in the present. Focus on campaign but open world. Why bring in a tier system from Diablo 3 when you could just have an open world with different levels? You're gonna mention, well, they want people to be able to scale. Okay, scale on the open world, right? But keep the dungeons at a certain level, make them individually more interesting. And once you transition to World Tier 3, World Tier 4, you can make the dungeons scale up every tier, a few levels. So you don't need this system that comes from Diablo 3 with tier. That at the end, what makes is that you force the year score system into Diablo 4 that hurts optimization. Why would you make something like that? Why won't you on purpose hurt your system, the dungeon system, that to me is such a good idea and is the core of the game, is the future of the game? What will it bring to you as a developer to do something that goes against you? And I think that's why I say the game feels rushed, is because if you tier system the dungeons, then suddenly you have like an almost infinite loop of endgame without bringing any other layer of content. Suddenly you have something that you can put there in the endgame for players to reach, and most of them will never reach, without needing to worry about different mechanics interconnecting into them to keep the players' entertainment. Basically, it's an endless pit of endless fun, you know, with a lot of quote-unquote, without needing to worry about anything else. Same with the class design. You have 25 levels and then you make another 25 levels of Paragon. The first 25 levels feel very disconnected from the others. Leads me to a conclusion that has to be rushed, has to be something that hasn't been put as much work as I feel like a class system needs to be put on. And with that conclusion, I think the only thing I can say is wait for the game to release before buying it. To me, the most frustrating part is not Diablo making these mistakes once again, because we could say that the same problems from Diablo 4 were already in Diablo 3. To me, the most frustrating thing is that with Diablo 3 I could understand. They had World of Warcraft going on, it was very popular, it was doing very well. I didn't have the need for Diablo 3. It was only until the Diablo community asked for it over and over again that they start trying to rush the project to release it for the public. And we had the mess that we got back then. With Diablo 4 I felt like the context is different. And this is the hardest thing I'm gonna say in this video, but I just feel like Blizzard is this. Blizzard is not rushing because they don't have time or money. They're rushing because it's just more profitable. They rush down a game, they put it early in the market, people buy it, and they will spend more money without less being spent in the game. I think that's the reality. And not only it's frustrating that Blizzard has become this, it's more frustrating to find out all these content creators. So all these people have been talking wonders for months how good the game was, even that they did never mention the flaws that the rest of us have been finding now in the beta. All the year score, the dungeons being repetitive, the empty open world, the scaling of the open world. All this wasn't never mentioned when people play, even not in the previous beta 1 to 25, only for chosen ones, but also in a even earlier version that had even up to level 100. All that was never mentioned, only been mentioned how good the game was, how good it feels. This is an obvious incentive, and I'm not talking about Blizzard keeping boxes of products or treating well. Blizzard is in your interest as content creator for the future, for future betas, for future collaborations, but it's also an incentive not to be negative, over critical about Diablo 4, because people are in the hype, in the peak hype after the beta or before the beta about Diablo 4. And obviously you can farm more clicks if you are positive about the beta. I think that's just so bad for Diablo 4. Sometimes I see POE when they have a bad season. Everyone, even the biggest content creators, are critical about it. They give a lot of shit to GGG on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, when a league just doesn't reach the expectations. And I feel sometimes that they're too critical about it. They are too harsh on GGG, on the developers. But then I realized that maybe that's why PoE is so good. Maybe that's why Diablo 4 is how it is, or Blizzard has become what it has become. Because for a decade we had a majority of big content creators more worried about being friends with Blizzard than being truthful to the fan base, or a community more worried about defending Blizzard from critiques than demanding from them what a company of their trajectory should deliver. Thanks for listening up to this point. See you in the next one.